Good morning and welcome to this edition of San Diego People. I'm Sandra Moss. We all know San Diego is a beautiful place to live, but rising temperatures and a changing climate could threaten our way of life. Today on San Diego People, see what the San Diego Foundation, one of the largest philanthropic organizations in our community, is doing to make sure our area continues to thrive. Their environmental initiatives help local programs prepare to deal with an evolving climate. And here now to tell us more is Nicola. She is Director of Environmental Initiatives at the San Diego Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is really fascinating. Our discussion today basically focuses on a report. This report called San Diego 2050 is calling. How will you answer? And it really is about climate change. And we're not getting into the debate about whether or not this is a true phenomenon, because 90+% of scientists in the country, in the world, think that it is, global scientists. But really what we are doing to make sure that our way of life continues to stay the same. So why did you commission this study, and why 2015? Why is that the magic date?
Well, at the San Diego Foundation, we have a 40-year history of working to improve the quality of life of all of San Diego's very diverse communities through effective and responsible philanthropy. And when we looked ahead at our quality of life and trends out into the future, we recognized that scientists are telling us that San Diego and a lot of what we love about living here is at risk. And there are a lot of challenges that we're going to see from climate change and how it affects us locally. So we worked with partners and commissioned this report, which was released last summer with organizations as part of a consortium called Climate Education Partners, and some 40 different scientists and technical experts who contributed to this. I think we're very lucky here in the region. We have a wealth of amazing science and research, especially around climate change. So we wanted to harness that and really understand what's a risk to our region, and what are the things that we as leaders and other community groups within our region really need to get ahead of in terms of climate change.
So how vulnerable is the region to climate change, and why did you decide to pick this particular date almost 40 years away? The interesting thing is that it will really affect us in a variety of ways, and I think viewers are already seeing some of these things. You know, whether that's increasingly intense or frequent droughts like we're experiencing today, or increasing risk of more intense and frequent wildfires, which we have a long history of here in San Diego already, or whether it's extreme weather events such as heat waves and other kinds of extremes that could put pressure on our great outdoors and other coastal assets that we have and know and love. And so many of these things that climate change will affect are such integral parts of why so many of us live in San Diego, you know, the things that make up our great quality of life. So as an organization, that the San Diego Foundation could play a role in helping to catalyze communities to look long-term, look out to the year 2050, and say, how will it be if these things move forward, and what can we do today to ensure that we're prepared and we're really preserving the healthy environment that we have and the strong economy for future generations. Now, the San Diego Foundation has put their money where their mouth is. In other words, you have given out a lot of money to different groups in terms of grants to help make a difference. Tell us about that.
Well, it's really exciting when we are able to respond to data and information like this and put out funding that we hope will support government, communities, researchers, and others to work together today to put findings like this into action. And so we were able to invest about $300,000 with other philanthropic partners to about 6 local programs that are working from Imperial Beach to Oceanside and working on impacts to coastal flooding, on water resources, wildfire preparedness, and other ways in which we can be prepared for climate change.
What kind of response or reaction, I guess, have you received? I know some of the interesting things that were uncovered in the study, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but 84% of San Diego County residents believe that climate change is happening. When you went to some of these organizations organizations and asked them to be a part of this. What was the reaction?
You know, I think it's been really overwhelming to see the number of entities, of leaders, of other community groups that are stepping up to the plate and saying we need to look at this now and let's start to work together. When we started our climate initiative at the San Diego Foundation, there were only 2 cities that had really stepped out and said, you know, we have goals and to reduce emissions and we want to take a leadership role to address climate change. Now, all 19 local within San Diego County have produced a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, you know, really getting a sense of their carbon footprint, and a number of cities, some 2/3, are working on or have adopted a climate action plan already. So I think there's a really growing momentum, and people are doing this for a lot of reasons, not only for environmental leadership or to respond to other state and federal legislation, but also because it has so many co-benefits in terms of clean air and water, ensuring the health and safety of people today and for future generations.
It also has a big impact on our economy. You mentioned the 19 different local governments that are participating, but there's also the Port Authority, the Water Authority, SANDAG, and in fact, your study found that in the San Diego region, there was an almost 5% increase in jobs in the clean energy sector from January of 2010 till January of 2011 in just 1 year. So a lot of people are jumping on this bandwagon.
I think that's a big part of the motivator as well. Is, you know, as a region, we have a wonderful history of innovation, and I think the opportunity that clean tech provides to our region, and in a way that we can address climate change as well, it's a great opportunity for communities to benefit in terms of job growth and innovation, as well as actually implementing solutions to climate change.
Let's talk a little bit more about this study. What were some of the things that surprised you about it? Some of the statistics, some of the information that maybe you didn't expect?
Absolutely. Well, one of the grants you'll hear about is responding to increasing coastal flooding. And one of the things that struck me, you know, when I think about San Diego and why I live here, it's in part because we have such amazing beaches. You know, we have 70 miles of coastline here in San Diego, and what you'll see from the climate science is that we're going to see increasing coastal flooding, not just from sea level rise, but particularly exacerbated when we have extreme high tides or other storm events. And one thing that scientists pointed out was by the year 2050, the 1 in 100 year flood would be like the annual flood that we experience in 2050. So these are the kinds of things that we need to start anticipating now and really think about in terms of how we're designing communities, you know, where we're putting different kinds of infrastructure and how we're improving that infrastructure over time.
Well, it's fascinating, and we will have a link to the report on our website at KUSI.com. Nicola Hedge from the San Diego Foundation, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. Appreciate it. When we come back on San Diego People, we are talking about how the city of Imperial Beach is working with the San Diego Foundation to prepare for climate change.
Toyota's clearance count.